One.
What?
Well,
You
written one.
wrote like by
Well, you wrote from scratch one, and
yes,
then I helped you
I
with the
tested like
house
3.
robbery
Yeah.
stuff. But
4.
you
Yeah.
did good. You didn't. I didn't have to like yell at you or anything. So I think that's pretty good. That's a pretty good start. Just so you guys know, oh, you can't see the camera, but I have a camera, and when you watch the video, I've got my I paused my game to be here T-shirt on. So I paused my game to be here with you tonight. All right. So is it 9? Yeah, it's 9:01. So we're a minute late. Thanks to Grizz's F up. Thanks, Grizz.
So for the record, the chat was available at 9 o'clock, so you talked for 60 seconds, so you lose.
Okay. All right. Well, all I'm hearing is excuses, but it's okay. No, Grizz, thanks for setting everything up. Appreciate it. And I want to give a shout out to Lemon for making me thumbnails for my YouTube videos. You're going to see those tomorrow, and pretty excited about that. I'm going to turn my mic down just a little bit because whenever I edited my videos, my mic was out of control. I had to down my audio a lot. So, all right. So last week, I'm not going to really recap last week too much. If you want to recap, you can go back and watch the videos. But um, Kirby had recommended that we each week add on to the script that we wrote last week, and I thought that was a great idea. So if you remember last week, we put a ped down. We put Mod down there in the Life Invader office, and we gave her a target, and it was just like you could pay $100, get a refund, or sign a contract. And I realized when I went back and edited the videos that I forgot to show you guys that the signed contract wasn't available, and that's because I didn't have an ink pen in my inventory. So if I would have added an ink pen in my inventory, then you would have seen that then that option was available. So that's where we're going to start tonight. Um, we're going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and assume that works because we know it would work, and go from there. So what you're going to when you sign the contract, it's actually going to be a repossession agreement with Mod, and we're going to spawn in a car somewhere, and she's going to give you a marker for it so that you can go pick it up, go steal the car, take it to a delivery point, and drop it off, and you get paid. And that all sounds pretty simple. Sounds like it should be a pretty quick class, but there's actually quite a bit of stuff you have to do in order to do that. So that's one of the things that I've noticed. I've been trying to help out in the QB Core Discord with people that are asking questions lately, and there's a lot of people that just don't understand. They're trying to write code or trying to, run servers, and they don't understand some of the basic principles. And I've been encouraging them to attend these classes because we're going to teach all those basic principles. So anyway, let's go to the next slide. Let me see if I can do this, that. Nope. Hold on. I got to go back over there. Perfect. I totally turned it off. Let me go back to this. Where the heck is my other screen at? There it is. All right, next slide. What? Oh, building off lesson 1. Okay, yeah. So last week, as we said, we learned how to use VS Code, sort of. We learned a lot about it. You'll learn that every week because we always use VS Code. And we learned how to implement QB Target. So this week, we're going to use QB Target to start a car theft activity. We're going to spawn vehicles. We're going to check if the PED has control of the vehicle. We're going to add and remove blips. We're going to add waypoints. We're going to delete vehicles. And we're going to lock actions so they can't be double launched before completed. That's a step that a lot of new, oops, let me go back. That's a step that a lot of new coders miss. So for example, if I click on Mod and I sign the contract, and I don't make it so I can't click that again, then I could start another contract. And so that's one way that people make mistakes, and you can go and like keep reselling stuff or keep getting stuff. And it's really simple to fix that. So I'm going to show you how to fix that tonight so that that never happens. So Mod's car repo. So there's going to be, you want to think about your script before you get started on it. So when I was thinking about it, I said, well, the first thing we're going to need cords for the car to spawn, and we're going to need some delivery locations. I got to choose the vehicles that I want to spawn. I'm going to want to set my payouts, and all 3 of these things I'm going to do in the config file. I want to add variables so I can track the progress of the activity to see what step the player is at, so that, for example, I can make sure they don't relaunch it until they've completed the activity. Whenever I spawn the vehicle, I want it to spawn in a random vehicle. I want it to set a blip and mark the vehicle location, and I want to set a waypoint so that the player knows where the car they're supposed to go repossess slash steal is located. Sorry, I just ate some ribs a minute ago. I'm burping a little bit. It's disgusting. Apologize. Okay, and then once the PED secures the vehicle, we're going to remove the blip that was marking where the vehicle was. We're going to change their waypoint, and this time we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to show you how to find the closest location to the player. We're going to have several random delivery locations, but it's going to select the one that's closest. It's not necessarily the best way to do it because you'd want them to have to drive, to get to, so you might want to pick the farthest one, but it's the same principle. You would just look for the farthest distance instead of the closest, and it's a good example of how to find what is the closest item or closest position to a player. So we're going to talk about that some. I'm going to identify the drop-off point visually. So once they get to where they're supposed to drop off, we're going to put some drawings on the screen to show them where they're supposed to actually put the vehicle. And whenever they drop off the vehicle, we're going to have to put in a key press listen, which is a good thing that you'll need a lot in various scripts. Then we're going to delete the blip, delete the vehicle, reset so that they can actually run it again if they go back to mod, and give the payout. So that's what we're going to do tonight. All right, let's close out of the PowerPoint because we're all done with that now. We might review it later. So let me just exit the maybe end slideshow. There we go. I know what I'm doing. All right, so first thing we're going to do, since we're going to be adding stuff, is I want to make my KSUE lesson 1. This is the work we did last week. We want to make this a little more friendly because we're going to be adding some additional stuff tonight. Originally, I was intending to hold on a second. I got to get the right screen up over here. And I got to make sure I can see Discord so these guys can let me know if my mic turns off like last week. Okay, so initially, I was planning to add a new Lua each week. So it would be like lesson 1 Lua, lesson 2 Lua, et cetera, et cetera. But there's quite a bit of stuff that we did last week that we're going to need also this week. And so there's no reason to create a new Lua file. But what I did want to show you is go ahead and demonstrate how to make this all a little more organized. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a folder, and I'm going to call it client. And I'm going to put my client Lua inside of there. Just drag it up. And then I'm going to make a new folder and call it server. And I am just going to drag my server file into that one. Now, since I changed those two things and they're in a different location, now I have to adjust my FX manifest Lua. So instead of it being the way it is currently, you have to change this a little bit. So if I just use this now, it's not going to be able to well, it will be able to find config Lua. The server Lua it's not going to be able to find because it's now inside of a folder. And so the way you identify the folder is with server slash, and so this would work. But I don't want to ever forget to add something here. And so I want to, any server files that I add in the future, if I add additional Lua files, I want it to read all of them. So you can actually just put an asterisk at the front like that. And so this will open any files that are inside of the server folder. It'll be able to access those. And you have to do the same thing for client. So you just add client slash, and then I'm going to put my star because I want to be able to see all my any folders or any sheets that I add inside the client Lua. All right, so that's all set up. Let me save that. And we're ready to start coding finally after 10 minutes of talking. Okay, so for my config, you'll remember we said we wanted to, let's go ahead and mark this as lesson 2. If you put 2 dashes, I don't know if I explained this last week, but if you're in VS Code and you put 2 dashes, that turns this into a comment line. And just real quick to do some VS Code overview stuff. That makes one line of comment, and so anything I put here is not inside the comment. But if you want to, for some reason, put a block of text for a comment, you would do dash dash, and then you do two squares. Where's my square? Nope, that's the wrong one. Two squares. And then you can come down here and you do two squares to close, or shit. You do two squares to close it. And then anything you type on these lines is part of the comment. So that's just a little tip for VS Code. We don't need to do that though. We just need one line to mark our lesson 2 config stuff. All right, so the first thing we're going to need is our vehicle spawn points. And I've already grabbed the chords just to speed the lesson along so that you're not watching me just go around and type in vector4 and enter. And so that sets up my config vehicle spawn chords. I'm just going to go ahead and paste those over. I don't think there's anything special about them. It's just this is my index 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how I'm going to pick what the random location is that we're going to spawn the vehicle, is with this index. And then I put it as a list, and so I've got chords equals vector4. So setting it up like this makes it much easier to randomly select a chord. There's other ways to set up the config file, but I like this format. This would work. That's perfectly fine. Oh, they're all the same, so you can't have the same title. So I'd have to say chords 1, chords 2, chords 3. But anyway, oh, nope. Let's see, there we go. I like it this way. This is the way I like to do it because then I have my index that's numbered. It makes it real easy, and all I have is chords. I'm gonna try to not beat the dead horse too much. So anyway, so then the next thing we had to do is we said we needed to pick our vehicles that we were gonna choose. So I picked 5 vehicles. Config.repo vehicle model. You can see I've got my numbered index again. There's my car model. And then I wanted to add in some chances as to which model is pulled. So basically what I did is I did a chance from 0 to 500 is going to determine if you fall in there, it's going to be a ballista. 501 to 600 is going to give you a panto. 601 to 700 is going to give you a brioso, etc. And I'll explain how this works later. But I'm setting up a chance because I'm making a 50% chance, because you can see we go all the way to 1,000. So there's a 50% chance you're going to get a ballista. There's going to be a 10% chance that you get a panto, a 10% chance for a brioso, 10% chance for an issy2, but then there's a 20% chance for a rhapsody. And why is that? Well, it's because my minimum chance is 0 to 500, which is basically 0 to 50, 50%. You could do this with, you don't have to use hundreds up to 1,000. You could also do it with 0 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, or 61 to 70, 70. But the reason I use hundreds is just to, if you want to add more stuff, you can spread it out a little bit more, and the odds are basically the same. You always want to do it in a multiple of 10 so that you can keep track of 70%, 60%, whatever. That'll make more sense in a little bit. That was probably confusing. I need delivery chords where they're going to take the vehicle to. This is basically the same as the spawn chords. It's just the config is called repo vehicle delivery chords instead. And then I'm going to add a config here that we'll use later. And this is the details for a marker. So we're going to use a marker to visually indicate where the player is going to park the vehicle. This is a native function in FiveM whenever you're drawing a marker. And whenever you do that, you have some standard inputs that you have to use. And I'll show you that whenever we add the marker in, I'll go and show you the native. Rather than entering this stuff into the script, I put it here because if I ever want to change the color, or if I want to change what type of marker we're using, it's just easier to put all those details in your config file, so that instead of having to search through your code and find where you did the marker, you can just come back and change it in the config and it'll just update the code. So we'll go into more detail on that. So that's everything I need for tonight to add to the config file. So we are ready to start coding, and we're going to start in the